Congressman Jordan, joins us now. Congressman, it is good to have you with us. Before we get into the latest on McCabe and the struck unredacted text, let's talk about where we are on this new push, perhaps, for amnesty and some type of other immigration reforms.
Why don't we just do what we said? Why don't we just do what the American people elected us to do? Instead of talk about amnesty, let's talk about building the border security, all the things that you've been talking about, Laura. Build the border security wall, change the asylum laws, get rid of chain migration, stop the visa lottery, deal with sanctuary cities. Why don't we do that? And then we can also address the DACA situation. But that's the right way and the prioritizing way that the American people elected us to come and deal with immigration. Let's do that, particularly here, as you said, as we're getting close to the 2018 midterm election. So that's what we're trying to accomplish as conservatives. We're willing to talk and work out something that we can, but it's got to be consistent with that mandate.
So the sense that I'm getting is that there could be White House support for a deal that basically completely overhauled the chain migration, limited it to to spouses and I think minor children or something like that. And so you get the second cousin twice removed. Aunts, uncles can't come in anymore, grandparents.
Yeah.
And then also deal with the visa lottery and a few other issues, I guess.
And the border security wall and asylum. So, yes, that would be the security portion, which is, again, consistent with what the American people elected us to do in 2016. And then what's also, I think, critically important to us conservatives, critically important to the American people is you cannot give people who came here illegally a different path, a unique path, or any kind of special path to citizenship. They can't, because they came here as young people, they're now adults, and they've only known this country. That still doesn't mean they get a different path and special path to citizenship that people who came here legally aren't entitled to get. So that to me is also critical. You got to have the key elements of the border security, and then you cannot give any type of special pathway for these DACA individuals. That's the element of that, potentially a deal that's consistent with what we told the American people we're going to do, and that's what the White House has been pushing for as well. Because President Trump understands how this issue has to be dealt with. Well,
you always, I'm going to talk to Mitch McConnell tonight on the Ingram angle, exclusive with him, and what the Senate will say is we don't have the votes to do these things that we want. They can stop us with the 60 vote issue. So unless they change the rules there, we don't have the votes to do it. Now, how do you respond to that?
This was the central issue in the campaign. They should change the rules so that you can do what the American people elected Republicans and, more importantly, elected the president to accomplish. It was real clear where President Trump stood on immigration. I would argue it was one of the key issues that made him the nominee and ultimately made him the president of the United States. So it's pretty clear where we need to go on the policy. So change the stinking rules to do the right policy. Mitch McConnell was able to change the rules to make sure Neil Gorsuch got on the court. And the reason he had to change the rules for that was because if he didn't, the American people would have went crazy because it was such a central issue in the campaign. Not letting Garland get on the court. We're going to wait until the next president's elected before we do this. It was such central. There is no way he could not have went with a simple majority for that Supreme Court nominee to get on the court. The same thing should apply to something as fundamental as immigration because it was so central to the campaign.
Well, so he would change the rules, and then they would have the votes. The concern is, obviously, when the Democrats are in, then the minority doesn't have any
They're
clout.
going to do that anyway, Laura. They're going to do. You don't think Chuck Schumer's going to change if they get the majority? You don't think he's going to change it so they can keep at making government bigger and bigger, spending more and more, and doing all their left-wing policies?
That's a good point.
Everyone knows that's going to happen. So that's definitely going to happen if Democrats get back in control. But Republicans, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to. We can't change the rules. The rules are more important than what the American people elected us to do. Really? That's just ridiculous thinking. So let's just get on with it and do what we said we would do.
Well, and I think that again, politics is also the art of the possible. I do think that at some point we have to say, okay, if we do nothing on immigration, then we're going to have 3 million more people in the United States over the next 7 years or whatever it is, just by the legal chain migration. I mean, the way immigration is going today, we could have, just a spiraling out of control just due to the chain migration numbers.
Yep.
So that, you know what I'm saying? So even if we don't have let's say Mitch McConnell is not going to change the rules for whatever reason. Is there any value, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but is there any value in doing chain migration, doing visa lottery, doing those reforms, and doing some type of permanent resident status for some of the DACA kids? Because at least you are you're doing what you can do. I mean, instead of doing nothing, and then the problem just keeps getting worse and worse.
The short answer is there may be if the security stuff is real, and we are getting the wall, we are getting the border security wall, we are dealing with chain migration, all those key elements. Yes, that's always been the proposal that I think makes sense, but it's got to be done right so that you don't incentivize more of this behavior in the future. That you don't incentivize people to try to come here illegally, and then there was this DACA thing given to them, and they got this legal status, so we want to do it too. You have to do it right, and in the end, it comes down to making sure it's the right policy. So yes, I'm open to that, and that's what we're talking about. But it's got to be done the right way, and it's got to be done in a way, as I've said several times, consistent with the mandate of the election.
Now, you have had concerns about the president and his tariffs, which are being used because of the massive trade deficits that we've racked up. $18 billion with Canada, which, you'd never think would have a trade deficit with Canada, but we do. $60 billion with Mexico, $380 billion last year with China. Goods and services with Europe. When it comes to automobiles, we deal with these ridiculous barriers in Germany, whereas they have a 2.5% tax on German vehicles coming into the United States. We deal with like a 20% tax in Germany. The president wants to change this dynamic because obviously it's not working for us. And are you one of the people critical of the tariffs? If so, why?
Well, no. I appreciate the president trying to address what I think is a real problem. I think China is the biggest concern in this whole area, and the president is I think looking at it from trying to impact NAFTA, trying to in a big picture sense. I do get a little bit concerned because the 4th District of Ohio, which I get the privilege of representing, there's a lot more steel users, aluminum users than there are producers in that state. And we have some of the biggest manufacturing in the 435 congressional districts, Laura. We're in like the top 30 in manufacturing output. So it is big in our district. We're also the start of the Farm Belt. So I look at it from that perspective as well. But look, I've talked with Mr. Kudlow at the White House. He seems to think that this is going to work out in the end. We're going to get better deals and a better NAFTA agreement. So we're willing to go along here, but I am a little concerned because I just know the makeup of our district and the number of people who actually use steel and aluminum, which right now there's a tariff in place on those.
Yeah, when you think about the size of the U.S. economy, it's about $20 trillion. The steel and aluminum imports in the United States are altogether about 20, added all, it's about $20 billion. The market's already factored in the tariffs. It's already built into the market. The market's very strong. The fundamentals of the market going forward are extremely strong for corporate America and for medium and small sized companies. So I think people are overblowing the effect of these tariffs on Americans. Given it's a very small percentage of our overall economy.
Maybe, and look, I know some of these big trade agreements that get done that aren't really always just about free market. There's always, I think, this idea that they help the big corporations at the expense of the marketplace. Maybe some of that's there as well. So I'm for free market. I'm for the growing economy that we have right now under President Trump. And I've been very pleased in the year and a half that the president's been in office, all the things that have been accomplished. Yeah.
I mean, they said it was all going to collapse. All these smart people said it was all going to collapse. Larry Summers said we're going to have a recession by now, and Krugman is going to sell your stocks.
Economy's growing.
What an idiot.
3.9% unemployment, lowest it's ever been. And then on the foreign policy side, out of the Iran deal, the Koreas have met, the hostages have come home, the embassy's in Jerusalem, Gorsuch is on the court. I mean, by any definition, it's been an amazing year and a half. Of course, if you watch CNN, you wouldn't know any of that. You got to watch Laura Ingram's show on Fox to know all those good things. But it's been an amazing year and a half, and frankly, the only thing Congress has been involved in is really the tax cuts. Everything else has been the president.
Yeah, and I think Congress has got to. Congress is Always gone on the globalist side of the equation on these big trade deals, and they made cataclysmic mistakes. I mean, your state was hollowed out by these stupid deals in NAFTA and China joining the WTO. We lost millions of Rust Belt jobs over the years as these factories moved overseas, and that didn't work for us. I mean, Trump's trying a new thing, and if that doesn't work, we'll throw that out. But
they were going to do they were going to do TPA and TPP with Obama.
Yeah, well,
and it was the Freedom Caucus who stopped that. I mean, we were the group that opposed that because we said, look, this is not a deal that makes sense to do with the Democrat president.
We don't need any more sovereignty killers. We have to keep power with the people. Congressman, it is always great to talk to you. We didn't even get into the Strzok page text, but just very quickly, 30 seconds. So what does that December 2015 text mean to you, if anything?
Yeah. The short answer is we don't know. Did it refer to actually what was going on with the president? We don't know for sure. It could be. We just don't know. But one thing we do know is Peter Strzok's been the central figure throughout this, ran the Clinton investigation, launched the Russian investigation. And we had an interview yesterday with Bill Priestap, who was Strzok's boss. And the number of times he said, Peter Strzok and the word expert in the same sentence caught my attention. So Peter Strzok had a huge impact on this. We just don't know specifically what this refers to.
How did Priestap come across as credible and helpful?
Yeah, he did. But again, I think Peter Strzok was even though he worked for Priestap, I felt like he was the guy who was the key person on all this counterintelligence, on all the counterintelligence information. So,
did Priestap go to London in May of 2016 to work on this investigation into the Trump campaign?
Yes. I don't know if it was about that. I can't get into the details of the questions yesterday. We're not allowed to, but he did go to London a few times, and I'm not sure all what happened on those trips.
Okay. Congressman Jim Jordan, thank you so much for your perspective. As always, love having you on.